board. Welcome to the first ever online workshop of the Choosing Strength Society. And also welcome to my living room, by the way. This is my living room. I'm on the floor and I'm very cozy. And so I kind of, the way that I put this like in my head, this class together, it's like partly I wanted this to feel like you're in my living room and we're having a chat and I just want to teach you about things that I'm excited about. So I want this to feel like we're just in my living room on a Sunday morning. And if you have a coffee in your hand, you have a coffee in your hand. And so today I want to talk about and teach you about the hip hinge, which is one of those key movements that are, you do it all the time. It's just that you don't think about how you do it all the time. And so my goal with this little workshop is to teach you some of the mechanical things. I want to talk to you about movement intention and movement accuracy, because what I see a lot and what I really care about a lot is movement accuracy, because A, we work out way more effectively, B, we do not harm ourselves, and C, that means that we get to do this for a very long time, and we also get to feel good about the process as well. And that for me, when I really started to think about, because don't get me wrong, I've spent almost 20 years in the gym. This is not how I used to think. I used to come in and I used to do all the things and I would just wonder why my lower back was always like aching. I would have the biggest pump in my lower back after every leg session I had. And I did this for many years, like train like a dickhead, like say it plainly, because this is you just do, and then you think you're doing it, but then you're not doing it accurately, so now you're not actually doing it. So when I started to study biomechanics and really trying to like understand the body and how it works and how it should work, and like what is range of motion, what is loading, what is intention, what is all of these things, then partly my results started to get better. I didn't have pains where I wasn't supposed to have pains. And my clients' results also started to get a lot faster and better. And I also recognized that I could also start to work with people that were already in pain, because the thing is that pain is just an indication of something is up. It's like if you are in pain when you're doing something, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing the thing. It just means that the thing you're doing is not accurate for you. And this is a very big distinction, and why it matters. It's because my hip hinge is not going to look exactly the same like your hip hinge. And the big thing about that is because we have like different levers. Our length of our lower leg is going to be different to our upper leg. It's going to be different. Our range of motion in our ankle will be different. Our range of motion in our knee and our hip, like they will all be different. So it will look similar, but it won't look exactly the same, which is also why, even though I have spent a lot of time creating these videos in my app for you to say like, okay, what is a deadlift? Okay, it's this. It looks like this. It's true that it looks like this, but it's more true that it looks like that for me, and for you it might look slightly different. So it's very important, which is why also filming each other, like filming ourselves training, helps us also see what is happening. So I don't ask you to video yourself just because it's fun and because I think it's fun. It's like I actually want to see what is happening in what joint at what time, and where is the intention coming. And if I can coach you through that, I can coach you through a lot of obstacles that will either be in pain, or like where you're actually not able to go and get stronger. Because the truth is that biomechanics, I got so strong when I started to understand my body on a mechanical way, because it's forces, it's physics. You give me a long lever, I can move heavy things. You give me short levers, I can't do anything. And it's the same with our body. So if we look at, I actually painted some gorgeous pictures here. If we look at this, I'm gonna scoot back. These are levers. We can also say this is our foot, this is our lower leg, this is our thigh, this is our back. We can say that, but depending on how far, like I'm going to draw a line. Now, this is biomechanics. So when we're working with gravity, which we are when we're using free weights, when we're working with machines, it's not the same because now the resistance will be different. But we are always working against gravity. So gravity goes from above to the ground. So it's pulling ourselves down. When we stand up, I'm going to do a dotted line just so that we know. I stand up. Then that's a little head. Now gravity is going straight down through the joints into the ground. Makes sense, right? All of a sudden, when I am starting to move these joints, actually, this will be better. Go. We'll keep it like this. Now, as I start to move these joints, you can see that there's a distance between gravity and the joints. What that means is that this joint is now being stimulated, it's being overloaded more than if I were to stand here. So when I push my knee forward, I will put resistance and more load on my leg, on my knee. The same thing goes for my hip. When I lean forward, my butt goes back. And that means that my glutes, which are these big bad boys, it's the ugliest picture, I know, they are being stretched. And so they're being loaded right now in this position. And so these are levers. And the bigger the lever, the more, what's that word I'm looking for? Well, the more strength you will be able to generate because it's a stretch and then it gets short again. Okay, does that make sense? And so I'm always working against gravity, which means that this exercise is hard when I'm in my bottom position, when I'm leaning forward, when I'm hinging forward. And it's the easiest when I stand up because the load is going through my joints. And so the bigger the distance, the harder the profile is, the harder the exercise is. And so this matters because we're going to load ourselves. And if I'm not putting my levers in good position to have the tension, that means that if I'm going to draw here, if I don't hinge properly, which is what we're going to focus on today, this part, and say that I round my back a little, okay, that means that the glutes are not taking the resistance. It's not taking the load properly. Now it's moving up here to the lower back. It's just because of the way that the levers are put together. And so why movement accuracy is so important. It's because if I don't move accurately, the load will be placed somewhere. And in my world, I want it to be placed where I want it to be placed. And this is why I really care about movement accuracy. So it's not to say if I do a bad rep, I'm going to hurt myself. And don't get me wrong, the lower back muscles are also muscles, but we want to train them when we desire to train them, not because we didn't do the thing accurately for what we wanted to do. And so this is why it's so important to understand that you will always train something. The question is, what are we training? And if the goal is to train the glutes, then the goal is to train the glutes. The lower back will work, but it will work only in isometric, which means that we don't want it to be moving as I'm moving in and out of the movement. So I think I just need to see because I'm gonna see I put some notes here. All right, before I actually start to showcase a little bit of these things, does this make sense, by the way? The movement accuracy and the levers. So you can just like nod to me because I see you in the room. Yeah, perfect. And if you have questions, please put them also in the comments. I will answer the questions as well. And so we'll just put them in the comments. I kind of touched on it a little bit, and I'm going to touch on it again, like what muscles are involved in the hip hinge. And so there's a lot of muscles involved. A lot of muscles are involved isometrically, which means they're there, they're not passive. And this is another thing which I think I will do in another workshop, is to talk about like active and passive training. And you're never supposed to be passive. It's just that some muscles are not moving, but they're still working to support. And so I probably will have a whole workshop on breathing mechanics and breathing, because it's the next part of a lot of the strength training. Is like, can we get the core and the breath to support us? Now we're in a better position to do the movement the way that we want to do them. But that will be the next sequence of this. So the muscles involved, the big muscles involved, because again, there's a lot of muscles involved. There's a lot of glutes. We have different fiber divisions. As you can see, there are like, there are lines going. This is not the best picture. I'm going to pull up this just because this is what I took it from. Give me a second, I will show you to the screen. So I tried to paint this. Okay, not the same, but similar, just so that I had something to point at. The small fibers up here are glute minimus and glute medius. They are not as involved in the hip hinge as the big muscle, the glute maximus. So this is the big muscle that kind of stretches down here. We also have different hamstrings. I'm just going to say hamstrings for the sake of this workshop, but they're running like different layers here. And some of them are a little bit deeper, some of them are a little bit superficial, but these are our hamstrings. Now, these are the prime movers of this exercise, and this workshop is going to be amazing because I'm so excited about this. They're both crossing the hip joint. So the hip joint is the ball and socket inside here. So if we were to strip away all the muscles and we only get to the bones, we have a ball and socket like this, and then we have the muscles on top of it. And when the muscles are stretching, right now I'm in a flex position. So when my glute and my hamstrings are stretching, they will go like this and hip extend. Basically, from this position to this position. That's the now my hips are, my glutes are stretched, my hamstrings are a little bit stretched, and now I'm coming here. Now they're in a shorter position, okay? And so these are our prime muscles that we want to work. Now, I can tell you this, for too many years of my training career, I did not do this hip hinge properly. Like, I did it well, but then I learned a few things that I'm going to teach you today that I feel like transformed my hip hinge, which is also why I'm like crazy passionate about the hip hinge, because the experience of it literally transformed. I used to feel a lot of the hamstrings, a lot of these, and it's true, they are working very, very hard. And if we want to favor them, because the second part of this is like, you can do one exercise in many ways, but it depends what you want from the exercise. So if I wanted more of my hamstrings to do the work, then I would do it one way. So we're going to do it two ways. So you're going to feel the difference. If I want more of my glutes to have a greater stretch, now I will have to do it slightly different. It looks so similar. And this is the thing, it looks almost identical, but the tiniest things will like change everything, which is when I unlocked it. And so let me see. Right, the next thing I need to speak about, and now we're moving into more of the things that often goes wrong, okay? Where we start the movement from matters a lot. And it's also in the very most subtle things that it happens. And so why I also really care about people taking this like big ownership over the movement mechanics, and like the being so fully present in the whole rep, not rushing it, not just like, oh, it says 10 on my program, let me do 10 and I'm done. Like, to actually say, was this a good rep? Yes or no? Okay, can I do it better? Yes. How can I make it better? I'm gonna try this. Of course, like if you're working with me at the gym, we will work on that together. And I'll be like, how did that feel? Okay, I felt it like this. This is why I always ask about feedback. Even the people who give me like notes in the app, it's like I often ask the question, how did it feel, before I tell you what I think you should do? Because it's a co-creation when you're working with someone. Because if you feel, oh my God, my glutes are on fire, like, then I could have gone, yeah, but maybe you should do this. Like, if we actually feel things and it's the right thing that we're feeling, that's a really good feedback. And then until we struggle and we don't feel what we want to feel, I think we should practice that for now. And so that we get better at that, instead of always like better, better, better. Okay, so I want to say a few things that I see mostly go wrong. And I can tell you, like, I used to do this. Like, my lower back was on fire more than any other part of my body for a very long time during leg sessions. But I also used to train for 3 hours, and I did every leg exercise that I knew on earth. And so I did it, but this is 16 years ago or something. Now, there are going to be two main things that happens in a hip hinge, and I'm going to be speaking about it from a like Romanian deadlift. If we have that in our programs, it's like a Romanian deadlift, because then we're working towards like a pure hip hinge. Because the truth is that you're hip hinging in a normal deadlift, you are hip hinging in a squat, you are hip hinging in a split squat. So like you are always hip hinging when your hip is moving. But sometimes in some exercises, you're also knee flexing, which means that your knee is also moving. Okay. But today we're really going to try and isolate the hip hinge. And then at the end of this, I'm going to give you a little challenge to practice. But the two things that I see most people when I look at the gym, and the things, if I say, do you want to work on some technique? It's like the two things that I cue the most and I clean up the most, and that will yield like 80% of the results. And then you can always fine tune things. But I really think like these are the two big things that if we can clean them up and you become more aware of them, I think it will. What is a Romanian hip hinge? So that will be the Romanian deadlift. And this is what I'm going to demonstrate in a second. Essentially, now I'm going to show you in a second what a Romanian looks like. But it's basically knee hip flexion, which this is when it's flexing, when it's bending, without so much knee flexion. So it's mostly in the hip. So it's like I'm trying to only fold from the hip, with maybe like a little knee flexion, but the knee flexion doesn't move. So if my knees on this picture would stay exactly the same, but my hip is moving forward, that means that my hip is moving forward, but my knees are solid. It's a hip hinge exercise. But if I'm going down and up and I'm flexing my knees and my hip at the same time, now it's more of a squatting mechanics. And then what happens with my back muscle, or with my entire back structure, is that isometrically it's working because it needs to, otherwise I collapse. If I don't have any muscles in my back, I would just fall forward, because that's what my spine muscles do, and like my lats are doing. They are making me stay upright. So I'm not passive in my back at all. But the question is, which is, we can take that first, am I trying to overextend my back when I'm hinging? And a lot of people do. Okay, so I'm going to show you first, and I'm going to over exaggerate so it becomes very clear of the problem that I see. And I'm going to do it kneeling. So even though I'm not standing up, I'm going to show it kneeling, so I don't have to change the height of anything. But so far so good, right? So it's clear. Just ask the questions in the chat. Okay, this is so much fun. Let me see. Okay. So the first problem I see, I'm gonna keep my hands here. Maybe I keep my hands here. The first problem I see, if I'm gonna do this hinge, is that a lot of people will go. So say this is my neutral back. Now I try to hinge, and either I go Can you see where the movement is coming from? It's coming from my spine. There's no movement in my hip. Like it will be like a pseudo movement because I can't fix, my body isn't fixed. It's like everything is together. So I can do this and I will get a little movement here, but it's initiated from here. Okay. So people will go, and then it will go, oh my God, my lower, like my whole back just cramps. It looks like a hinge, right? It looks like I'm hinging because my back is going, this is a lot of people. And then the worst thing is they will look at themselves in the mirror and they will actually do what I'm doing now, looking at you in the screen. Like, but can you see how much of this is happening? Right? Do it. Can you see that? Yes. Yes. That means the initiation comes from bah. Now these muscles, they are shortening. So whenever things are moving, it's either becoming longer or shorter or staying the same. But if you see my upper back and my lower back now getting kind of closer together, right? You see that? They're moving closer together. That means that my spine muscles are shortening. So that means you are pulling low. Yeah, I'm pulling because I'm actually pulling my lower, like this is me working my spine. So it's not wrong, but it's not what we want for the hip hinge because now I'm already like compromising my back and now I'm trying to hinge and this is already overloaded. So while I'm in a hinge that you can see, I'm still hinging. The load is like, I'm going to feel a lot in my lower back because I've already done this. Da, da. Oof, I actually have a lower back because I deadlifted heavy the other day. So this is problem number one that I just see people go, or not even just here, they also go, beh, like they start from the hip here instead. Dig. Can you see that now? So it's not from the top, now it's from the bottom. Bah, bah. But it's still here. Can we see that? It's the lower back. It's like a big twerk. Okay. So I can feel like my lower back is like really pumping right now. So we don't want this. Ideally, we don't want this. But I can tell you, it's also not, it's not going to hurt you. If you have back pain, like you can disregard some of this because you will have more sensitive. If you have like herniated disc, this might feel, it doesn't mean that it will feel terrible, but it might feel. But if we want to get into the glutes, this is not what we can do. Like we cannot do it like this way. And so when I'm hip hinging, the goal, do I have a hair bubble? No. The goal is to just be neutral. Actually, when I do this and I get some people to learn it, they actually put their hands on their glutes. First of all, can we squeeze the butt, like squeeze it so we can actually feel like, okay, this is my butt. Then we're gonna not squeeze it because I can't, if I still squeeze and I try to move, then I have to go, then I have to go here because I'm still trying to squeeze it like, so it's not moving, it's locked. So when I'm creating emotion, I actually have to let it go a little bit, okay? So my spine is neutral, it's not passive. So I gotta really work on like, can I stay neutral as I hinge? And so a hip hinge in Swedish, we say höftfällning, which means like we're falling. It's a hip falling. So my upper body will move down. My butt will push forward. I'm gonna put my hand here so you can. I don't know where to put my hands here. And then that's the hinge. Now I feel nothing in my lower back. I can feel there's a stretch here. If I were to do this not from the hinge, from the hip, and then I come up forward again. So I come down in this position, and in this position, I'm imagining there's there's a flashlight, and I'm trying to point the flashlight this way. This is what I'm doing. Now I'm in hip hinge, and the flashlight is pointing down. The flashlight is pointing that way. The flashlight is pointing down, okay? If I were to do this not in a hinge way, I'm gonna move because I'm gonna fall over. Now, if I were not to do this from my hip, and I were to like try to lean forward only, now I would lose my, I would fall. If I were to like, oh, let me just fall over. Like, I'm still creating motion from the hip, right? I'm still bending my hip, we can see that, but I'm not loading it. And so my upper body is a counterweight, which is why when I'm hinging, I'm going to put my hands here, I have to push my butt back, because otherwise, as soon as I go too far forward, I'm losing it. So my body is the counterweight to the lever, which is the hip. And then I feel the stretch, and then I move up again. And then I feel, I don't even know where to put my hands so you can see it. But you can see now my spine isn't moving. Can we see it? It stays the same. The shape is the same. The shape is the same. And now because I'm here, you can kind of see my butt is popping a little bit. It's because the load is right here. And then when I come up, I just reverse it. And here I squeeze the bum. Okay? So this is the hip hinge. And the first fault that I see is that people, they try to start from here and they sit back. And they sit back. And it looks similar, and they sit back. But a hip hinge is, we're not moving at all from the spine. And then we come forward. Yes? Okay, let me just see. Can you, if you were standing up, do you also bend your knees a bit? Yes, I do. And this is the second thing I'm going to teach you now. Now, so the second thing, and this is probably the thing that when I really understood this part, now my life changed forever. Like, it was a breakthrough moment. Hallelujah, aha. And it really was. So the second thing that I see, I'm going to see how I need to do this. I don't think you need to see my upper body, so I'm going to do this. Is that, because now we're going to talk about like the feet. The pressure of the foot changes everything. So this is perfect, actually. I'm going to stand here. Yes, I'm going to stand here. Okay. Now, the way I used to do it, the second thing I used to see I see a lot in the gym is that people do, first of all, they do this. As I said, they do this. But if we take away that, they often times do both. But this is the second thing, is that here I want to have a slight bend. Because if I'm here, I can bend, but this is my range of motion, okay? Because my hamstrings are so stretched because they're attaching across the hip joint, but they're also attaching across the knee joint, which makes it stretch from both ends. So now I actually have less range of motion. So if I have straight leg, I go here. You can see my range. I can put my hands like here so you can see. Here is my range. Now, if I have a little knee bend, you can see how much further I can go. Okay? I'm not still hip hinging. As long as I don't do this and I can do this still. But now I'm knee bending. You can see that. So I'm knee flexing. So when I come up, when I start my hinge, I want to have slight bend on my feet. Just slight. And this is the second thing that people did wrong, and you can look at my pressure of the foot. When I come down, this is the wrong, is that I shift. Can you see how much I'm shifting backwards? Can you see that? Yeah, and I'm shifting forward. And the way you see it, look at my lower leg. So I'm starting here. It's kind of straight on top of my foot. And I start to hinge Can you see it moving? It's moving backwards. So now it's almost behind my heel. And the pressure has gone from the middle of the foot to the back of the heel. And oftentimes when people go a little bit too far, I just want to have, and they do this, and then I have to like oof, bounce back. And so, and this is not wrong. We can do this. But now these bad boys, the hamstrings, they are getting the stretch of their life. So it's not wrong if we want to train the hamstrings, but we're not getting as much glute activation because it's just, they have the bigger stretch. Okay. The muscle that gets the bigger stretch is usually the one that gets to work the harder. Let me just see. That would look like the yoga posture. Yes. So the thing about yoga is that they are overextending everything. Okay. Yeah, let's not start the debate of yoga, but it's true. And they're overextending their backs, they're overextending their hamstrings, and they're not getting stronger. And in fact, like I wouldn't say it's bad, but if you only do yoga, it's going to damage you long term. So like any sports, this is my opinion, but any sports that you do, if you do a variety of different things, it's going to be good for you. But the moment you stay stuck in one position, like big stretches, you're only stretching and you're not getting stronger. You're actually stretching. So it's not bad to do yoga. A lot of people will benefit from yoga because we do not stretch enough. Like stretching isn't bad for us, but when you only stretch as your sport, it can really cause you a lot of problems. And I've worked a lot in the gym with people in yoga, and it's like they don't know how to use their glutes. They don't understand any because they're always in the specific, and we get strong in the things that we do a lot. So it's like it's just mechanics. So I wouldn't like if you're doing yoga, you will do it the opposite way of what I'm teaching you. But this is biomechanics, and this is also us getting to really think about like why are we doing it. So we get to choose. But if we want to get strong glutes, which it's not for the aesthetics only. It's really not just for the aesthetics. It's just the aesthetics is a plus, especially if you're a woman. Even though men, we love big, nice butts on tour. It's really about like quality of life long term, because this is one of our biggest muscles in our body, and it's responsible for so much of our life. You could not walk, you could not get up from a chair, you could not dance, you could not run, you could not jump, you could do nothing without your glutes. So it's really like, and a lot of back pain goes away when we strengthen the right muscles. It really does. And so like I care about this a lot for all of the reasons there is to care about it. Like I care about looking good naked too, but I really care about quality of life and longevity and all the things that is more important than just looking good naked. Like they get to coexist. But I think if we can focus on like really just figuring out how to get strong, it will happen regardless, and it will happen with more ease. And then one day you look back and you'll go, how did that happen? Because all I really thought about was like, I'm just enjoying training because nothing hurts that's supposed to hurt. I'm more capable. I can do these things. This is just what like my message in this world is like this. But I still think you get to look good naked, like you really do. And so this still is going to apply very heavily to if you want to grow a great aesthetic, like it matters because you can train RDLs like Romanian deadlifts, you can do hip thrust, you can do squats, but you can still like miss out on a lot of glute gains because you're not loading the glutes properly, and instead you're loading other muscles. So it does matter regardless of the goal. Movement accuracy is like, what do I want? How do I get it? And what do I need to do that? So let's just go back to the example because this is great. So I show you one more time. The wrong way is I'm here, and you can see the shin angle. This is called the shin angle. It's shifting backwards as I do the exercise. Okay, so I'm here and I'm shifting. It's moving from my ankle joint. It's not wrong. It's just not great. So what I want to do if I'm going to hip hinge properly is that, first of all, if you watch me like do anything, it's like I look at my feet, I ground myself into the glute floor because that's where I'm pushing from. This is my point of contact. So it matters that I'm happy with like how I feel in my feet. So I will be hip width apart if the goal is to train the big glute muscles. If I go too wide, they don't have the best pull. And I will work a little bit more inner thigh and maybe a little bit more upper glute, but still not the best exercise for the upper glute. So I prefer to get hip width apart because now we're going to have the best hinge mechanics. Now, the second thing is I'm grounding myself with a little knee bend. And from here, I'm actually focusing on what I taught you when I was kneeling. My rib cage stays down, my knees stay exactly where they were, but I'm moving from my hip and I'm opening up my hip. And then this is probably the end of my hip flexion. We all have different range of motions. And if I were to go lower, you can see what happens in my lower back. It starts to round. You can see it gets a bit rounded here. Now it just means I maxed out here and I have to get the range from somewhere else. And so when I come up, I'm gonna feel like a little bit of my lower back potentially working. And so doing it again, I'm hinging, and if you pay attention, I didn't move my shins, right? They're exactly where they are. Yet somehow my body is like where it's supposed to come, and I can feel this is active. Okay. What we can play around with is also what happens if I change. Like my knee isn't really changing, but I'm shifting my weight in my foot. So I'm shifting a little bit forward. I see what happens. I shift a little bit backwards. I see what happens. I come forward. And oftentimes what happens is most people are too far back and they lose a little bit of activation. So we're going to shift forward. So I can feel my front paw is pressing down also. When people say, should I just, like, I'm on fire right now. If you put yourself in this position for long enough, you don't need to have heavy loads to work hard. Like, you really don't. It's just that when we find it, we find it. My body, my upper body is still a load. Like, this weighs a little bit, and my hips are furthest away from the load because my load is here. Then maybe somewhere here is gravity, like maybe somewhere here. If you look at my arm, I think the gravity would go around my arm. That means that my hip is further away from the gravity, so it's being very loaded right now. And if I stay for too long, maybe I feel my lower back a little bit because it's still working isometrically. And then I'll just come back up. Poof. And you can feel like it's a bit of a squeeze, a bit of a pump. So is this making sense? Do we have any questions on this? How do you place your knees? What direction do they point? So they are pointing forward in the same direction as your toes. Okay. And so I like to just think of it as you're on a train track. And so if you have wide hips, like I don't have very wide hips, so my feet are going to be like, here is my hip socket. This is my joint. My feet should be around the same. And then I work from here. So I think for most people, this is where you're going to be placing them. But this is also like, there is some nuances because the hip and the socket isn't the same for everyone. It can feel different for different people, but for most people, I would say this is where you want to go to really work on your hip hinge. So I was thinking, let me just see, where's the movement coming from? Okay, because I made some notes. Yeah, and one, like, I guess we can talk about cueing just for like, what is the cue? Say if you were my client at the gym and we're going to be thinking about cueing, because there is think of exercise as a sequence of things that happens. Okay. And so if we do the sequence right, we're putting ourselves in a good position to get the outcome that we want. If we do it in a different order, or if we do something like that isn't supposed to be in the sequence, now we might not get to the outcome. We may still get to the outcome, but like we might use too much energy to get there, if you know what I mean. Like we want to take, I usually say to my clients, we're going to take away the garbage. Everything that isn't supposed to be in the sequence, let's take it out, so that you really do only train what you're training, and we don't use energy. Because the thing is, we are using energy every time we do something. That is energy. Okay, so I want us to train as effectively as we can in as short space of time as we can, but that in order for that to happen, movement accuracy and taking away the garbage. Because I can get to the result, say that I needed to do 100% of good, okay, and that 100% of good can be taking me really in reality half an hour if everything was great. There was no garbage, there was only like clear sequence of exercises. We're really paying attention, we're going where we're supposed to go, we don't check our phones for Facebook, like we do all the things that actually takes a long time for our sessions that we don't know. But even the things like the little garbage things, now if I say 100% and it's clear and it's precise and it can take you 30 minutes, but and I needed to get to well, 100% in 30 minutes. But if I add in garbage in between this, in the time that I'm spending, for me to get to 100%, that could take me 50%, 100% longer, because the quality of what I do is less. So it's like I can get all my nutrients in. It's the same that goes for diet. I can get all my nutrients in little food. Actually, I can get all my nutrients in, but just by taking supplements. This is probably the purest way of taking it. I don't recommend this, but I can eat very clean food and get all of my proteins in. I can really think about these things, or I can get all of my nutrients in with really bad food, but then that also means a lot of calories, which is why then we put on weight. So if I said I needed 100% of my nutrients and it would take me 2,000 calories in good food. This is just an example. Well, if I still wanted 100% of the nutrients, it could still take me like I could probably to 20,000 calories just to get the nutrients in from the other foods. So it's really about like, can we remove some of the garbage to get the 100%? It's not to say that it can't exist there, and I'm speaking in both the training and the nutrition. It's just that we got to understand that how we do things matters for what we get in return. Okay. And so for the gym, it's like, I want you to get the best return of your investment, time wise and energy wise. So we got to remove some of that garbage, because otherwise we are spending, you have to spend 10 hours at the gym because you're doing 50% of the garbage. Like, but can we take away 50% of the garbage? Well, maybe now it's only 4 hours, you know? And this is my desire, why I'm passionate about this, because I want us to like live our lives. We don't need to spend that much time training. I just want us to live our life. Then we still get to train because we enjoy it. But if we're really thinking about like, I want results, I want something out of this, my time and my energy is worth something, let me get whatever I can in return. And then for that reason, we try to really think about like, what is the sequence? Can I refine this thing? This is what sets me on fire still when it comes to training. It's that I can still refine my movement accuracy, even to this day. Because the more I start to understand about my body, and the more I mean, obviously I study these things still. I came back just from a weekend spending a time with a physio. Now I understand things on a whole different level. So it's like, I just also want to remove the garbage. So this is why I want to teach you guys to remove the garbage, because my training, I don't train that much anymore. Yet somehow I managed to be this strong and look this way. Yes, 20 years of half garbage has accumulated to okayness, but what if I could help you like remove 20 years of your time to get to this result? That's what I care about. Like, I lived through many shitty years of training, And then I got curious, and then I got curious, and then I studied, and then I studied, and then I studied. And so my like why you're here also is that you're shortcutting your time by having someone teach you this. I waited, I don't know, 10 years maybe before I started to actually care about this. Because at that point I just wanted to train, and it didn't matter that I had lower back pain. Like it didn't matter. But now it's like it does matter. And I'm getting older, and my body doesn't like when I treat it badly anymore. Like it doesn't forgive me as much. So as we get older, this is also like we cannot just butcher our bodies the way that we used to be able to butcher our bodies, because it just doesn't forgive us as much. So I care about this a lot, and like my goal is to help you just take away the garbage, like, and let's do it together, because I too have to take away the garbage, and if I don't pay attention, my garbage will come back. Okay, and so let me just see, this is all I wanted to teach, and I realized this was like a long teaching, so I'm gonna show you now the thing that we're going to be practicing together, and it's up to you if you want to do this as a 7-day challenge. It's just for you to really focus on this. Like mastery is being present. Like honestly, you will be able to get better at this even after 20 years. And this is what made training still fun for me, is that even after 20 years, it's like, oh my God, there is another level of excellence, like, and it excites me so much. So I'm going to teach you, let me just see what I have written down. 4 exercises. They get accumulatively harder as you do them. Like the first exercise is the easiest, and they get harder. So you get to choose if you want to try them all as the challenge. But in that case, you're going to do them in the sequence that I'm telling you. Or you get to choose if you're going to stick to one and just practice it. And you just do it once a day. And it's going to be 5 to 10 reps. Simple. So actually, it's just 3 exercises. The first one is the kneeling hinge, what I just showed you earlier. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be standing here. My feet are going to be flat. What I want you to do is you're going to be putting your hands on your bum. But I don't want you to be pulling your shoulders back so much, because you can see what happens in my spine when I do it. My rib cage flare up, and I kind of have to go this. Okay, so I just want to like have our, so from the back, it looks kind of like in forward a little bit. Okay, so the first practice, the first is the kneeling hinge. It's just to move backwards with your hip, forwards with your body. You're gonna see my feet are racing a little bit because that's just a counter thing. And the goal is, can I feel the butt? Okay. When I'm in this position, I'm thinking still about that flashlight. It's like I want to point that flashlight this way. And my head is kind of tall. And then when I come up, I just move forward. And here you get to squeeze the butt. And then we're just going to do like 10 reps of this. 5 to 10 reps. We're going to come back. And you can see maybe you get like more sensation as you move through it. And then we're going to go boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. I need to tell you what to not do, which is it's easy to happen, is that you're going to go down towards your heels. Now it becomes more of a squat mechanic. I'm still hinging, but I'm also bending more at my knee. Can we see that? I'm squatting down. So while I'm still hinging, I'm not loading this properly. So my goal is to not bend my knees so much, and that my hips remains as high as I possibly can get it. We can see the difference, right? So my hip is trying to stay high. And then I come back up. Okay. Not down, up. What a lot of people will do, down, up. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is the double leg hip hinge. That will be the resemblance of the RDL, what I showed you earlier. Same thing. We're gonna think about, so this is the cueing. I want you to feel the middle of your foot, which means I have to bend my knees a little and feel the pressure. You get to choose if you're gonna hold your butt again, or if you're just gonna have your arms by your side. I'm just gonna hold my butt, and I'm just gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna be hinging, 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 and that's about it. I can feel my butt, and then I come forward. Now, as I come forward, I do not straighten my knees. They're gonna stay right where they are. Hinging, 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 hinging. And then same thing, I'm gonna move my hip forward rather than knees back. Okay, so they're gonna stay there. This is what I've really, and this is why you gotta practice this. Ideally, what you do is that you will kind of make yourself either film yourself or do it in front of the mirror. Ideally, you're not going to look like this as I am now, but it's okay because we're not really loading. But eventually, like we want to teach ourselves to just have a neutral, like a neutral neck as well. So this is the double leg. Okay. The third one, it's called a kickstand hinge. It's just a single leg hinge. So it's going to be exactly the same thing. I'm going to show you with my right. So I place all the Q1. I do this. I'm on my right foot. Now I put my foot down, but I can take it up. So my weight is in my right. Okay. Now, this leg is exactly where it was before. I'm here, I'm here. I do the same thing. I can put my hand on my hip, or if I want to, I place the opposite arm in the crease and the same arm on the back. And now I do the same thing. I hinge, I hinge, I hinge, I hinge, I hinge, I hinge, I hinge. And then I do the same thing. I'm here and I move my bum forward. My knee doesn't go back. I hinge, I hinge, I hinge, I hinge, I hinge. I hinge, I hinge, I hinge. And then I come forward. That's the kickstands. Hip, stance. So those are going to be the 3 exercises that we're going to be practicing. And if you are struggling with this, like this is going to be inside, well, this is going to be inside of the app. No, this is going to be inside of the group of the membership. So if you are watching this and you are in the membership and questions come up from this, place it in the comments below, because I like there might be things missing. There might be things that you need, and so we can work on this. There were not 4 exercises. I skipped one because it's going to be more, I think, towards the breathing, and so they can go together in the breathing. So these are 3 exercises. Either, as I said, you do them in the order, or you focus on one. But I would say do them in the order first and figure out, like, am I nailing this? And if you're, and the cue here is you're going to feel your butt. Like, don't leave, like, this is it. Like, the goal is to feel our butts. If you feel your hamstrings, we're not doing it right. Well, we're not doing it the way that we want to do it. And the big thing here, if you're feeling your hamstrings, is that you need to bend your knees a little bit and you need to lift your butt up in the air a little bit. Like, think about that flashlight. You're going to point it in the other way of the room. If you're feeling your lower back, you got to relax a little bit. So it's not, you got to relax a little bit. Like, I'm on the sofa and it's a Sunday afternoon. Like, this is not relaxing. So if I'm here, I just gotta go there. It's a small thing there. Okay. And so you're gonna play with this and just see whatever comes up for you as just feedback. Okay. Because it all is feedback. If you feel your back a little bit, it's feedback. Something's got to change. If you feel your hamstring and not your glutes, it's just feedback. Something's got to change. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're like, you can't do it. It just means that right now the levers are not in the accurate position for you to feel what we want you to feel. Okay, that's all it really means, which is why once you start to feel and experience sensation in the muscles, well, a lot of people will start to freak out. Oh my God, I gotta get out of here. Like, and then it's like, this is painful. It's like, but this is the good pain. And so we eventually will learn to associate to pain, because it is painful to train. Training isn't pleasant in that sense, that when you start to really feel your muscles, it's a pain that you get used to. It's a good pain, but like you will eventually freak out by how much pain you can hold. But it's like you will learn to differentiate between, oh, I'm having a back pain and it's a dull thing, versus my glutes are on fire because I'm loading them. And so I really genuinely believe if we can learn to hold this level of stress, because it's a stress thing as well. You guys who are in the calibration 6 with me, this is something that you'll realize, is that we're going to learn to hold the stress. And part of it, why the training will serve you in the other in the other areas of your life, it just is because you're able to intentionally place stress on your body, and you're putting yourself in a position to hold it. And that teaches your nervous system that you're capable to hold something stressful. Like, this is not pleasure. This is not your reward center, just ding, ding, ding. Like, this is a lot of label. The reward thing comes after the endorphins, the serotonin, like all of the dopamine, like all of it comes. But you gotta like go through the tension with the body to get to those chemicals in your mind as well. Like, there is no better antidepressant in the world for, like, longevity wise, than exercise. And I really think that when we start to get a good relationship to this kind of pain, everything changes. Like I always say, strength training has, like, it was the best decision I've ever made in my entire life. One of the 3 best decisions I've ever made in my entire life. And I'm so grateful for me starting that journey when I started that journey. But you get to say, whether you have trained for 1 year or 3 years or 5 years or 20 years, like, you still get to say, I'm so grateful for that version of me who decided to take up something like this, because it will change our life for the better if we stick to it long term as well. And it gets to feel more fun than, oh, I just got to get to the gym because I feel like I just got to get to the gym. Like, this actually gets to feel fun if you get into like the, I care about my body and I care about me being in ownership over my body. Like, that is an amazing thing when you start to say, like, I feel like a fucking Yoda on the gym floor. It's a great feeling, but you got to go over the hurdle of consciousness. Because this, even though I make it look so simple, this is the thing, I make it look so simple. It's not simple to have ownership over your body, but you got to practice it and you got to care about ownership over your body. Then it will land for you. And when it lands for you, you go to the next level of what it means for you to go. Every goal that you have can come also, but you got to fall in love with you being the one choosing to be here, because this is the only thing that really matters. Everything else will happen as a byproduct by your care. And this is like, I believe in this so much. I will never stop talking about this because this is my passion. Like, I honestly don't think that I can do anything else in this world than to talk about this. And so if this was a valuable workshop, what I would love to ask of you, just because it will help me also, is that I had a post on my Instagram of the workshop. And so if you are watching this and you want to like put a comment on my post, then I would really, really appreciate it. And if you don't have Instagram, you don't have to go and create an account just to put a post up there. But if you do, like, or if you have anything to say on the internet about anything that I do and you participate, obviously it helps me reach more people. But I appreciate you so much. Like, this matters so much to me, and it's only the beginning. And this is the more exciting thing about this. Like, I'm only starting. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. My pleasure. Like, I really feel like I just invited you into my living room and we're just having like me talking about what I'm the most passionate about. And I just want to help you in any way that you can. And I genuinely think that the physical aspect helps you unlock like your self-love, your emotional maturity. There's so much that comes from this if you allow it to take you there. If you only see it that you have to do it because you're not good enough, you're not getting all the freaking benefits of this that you could be. So why I care so much about bridging the gap between the personal development and the emotional intelligence and the physical strength side is because together they unlock something in you that gives you fulfillment, and the success gets to happen. But you don't have to choose. And this is what I believe with all of my heart, that you actually don't have to choose, but you have to do it with the right intention, and you just have to care. And I think the more you care about anything in your life, there's nothing you like, if you care, then nothing is boring because you care. It's like, I care about my coffee. That coffee is going to matter to me. I care about I care about summer right now. Okay, I'm gonna make the most out of summer. I'm gonna savor. I'm not gonna just sit at home. I'm gonna be present. I care about my people. Okay, that means that when I'm present, I'm gonna have to get over that sometimes they say things that I don't like, or I have to like. There's so much. If you care, you will always be invested. This is the end. Like at the bottom line of this is like, if you care, you will always be invested. It's that simple. So can we care enough? Can we care more? And the level of care gets to grow. Like I this year for me was about like, how much can I care? And my life is so fun this year. It's the best year of my life. And to say that at 35 that we have the best year of our life, and that's not to say that the rest of the life wasn't great. Like it was already great, but now it's like the best because I care about creating the best year of my life. That's the difference. And so just ponder on it, go practice these things. If you need help, you reach out. If you want to send videos to me when you're doing it, do it so I can coach you, give me feedback so we co-create this experience. And so thank you so much. It's been the biggest pleasure of my life. And I will see you soon. Bye.